Homeless in America, Fentanyl's Hidden Scars. Imagine a mother holding her child inside an icy tent, their hopes crushed under addiction's relentless hold. Who bears the burden of a nation's indifference? A veteran marked by battle lies on cold pavement abandoned by broken pledges. A young boy's gaze emptied by hunger lingers on our streets. Every wound festers quietly within the core of our society. This crisis cuts through us all. Still light shines through answers, housing recovery compassion, leading us toward a future where no one is forgotten. A mosaic of faces who are the homeless in America. The introduction's evocative scenes. A mother in a freezing tent, a veteran on hard pavement, a child with vacant eyes lay the groundwork for a deeper look into the varied lives caught in America's homelessness crisis. Beyond these stark portraits, the mosaic of people without shelter uncovers a wider, more intricate human catastrophe.
We're almost at the homelessness peak of the depression right now.
Homelessness in America cuts across ages, identities, and life paths, affecting not only those visibly struggling, but also individuals hidden in plain view, their hardships cloaked by resilience or societal neglect. Take the elderly, an increasingly significant portion of the homeless community often disregarded. Many in their later years face eviction when fixed incomes cannot match the relentless rise in rent prices. A 2024 study reported a 20% increase in unhoused seniors, some of whom once enjoyed stability but were toppled by medical expenses or personal loss. Their lined faces, shaped by years of labor, now seek shelter in soup lines or beneath overpasses. Just as overlooked are the rural homeless far removed from city encampments, sleeping on couches or in wooded areas, their suffering hidden by America's urban-centered lens. Immigrants also occupy a crucial place in this mosaic. Escaping hardship or danger, many arrive only to end up in packed shelters trapped by legal and financial obstacles. Their aspirations dim as they struggle within a system ill-equipped to meet their needs. Transgender people face distinct dangers, often shut out by shelters or families forced into unsafe streets where each day is a fight to survive. What connects these varied lives? Each shoulders the burden of a society that has looked away, leaving them to endure hunger exposure and prejudice alone. Yet their narratives of endurance, of preserving dignity, demand that we pay closer attention. Homelessness is not uniform, but a rich tapestry of human survival woven from endless strands of loss and resilience. As we confront these hidden wounds, we must ask, how can such a wealthy nation abandon so many to languish in its shadows?
My life was pretty much out of control and had been for quite some time. Ended up spiraling out of control with drugs and alcohol. I eventually lost everything, apartment, all belongings. Ended up trying to commit suicide.
The shadow of addiction, a vicious cycle. What unfolds when despair collides with the deadliest drug of our era? The unseen wounds of homelessness in America pulse beneath fentanyl's merciless hold, a force that both intensifies and conceals suffering. Addiction in this context isn't a single trigger, but a complex snare constricting lives already fractured. Fentanyl, the stealth predator driving the opioid epidemic, has spread with devastating speed, tearing through cities, suburbs, and rural highways alike. By 2024, overdose deaths among unhoused people had skyrocketed, with fentanyl fueling this grim rise. But pause for a moment. Does addiction lead to homelessness? Or does homelessness invite addiction? For many, it is not the start, but the aftermath. Picture a young woman evicted after losing her job, seeking fentanyl to dull the chill of a park bench. Envision a father, once dependable, now broken by sorrow, turning to the needle for a fleeting escape from disgrace. Are these merely addicts? Or are they human beings ensnared in a relentless cycle, where homelessness fuels substance use and substance use entrenches homelessness? Here lies the core tragedy. Treatment remains largely inaccessible. Detox facilities offer only brief stays, releasing people back to the streets where temptation waits nearby. What chance does hope have to grow in such barren ground? Mental health services, too, are painfully scarce. Shelters strain under overwhelming need, often lacking therapists or addiction experts. Outreach workers spread too thin, can't possibly reach every distant camp, every deserted structure where despair festers. Why do we keep sealing deep wounds with fragile bandages? And then comes stigma, the harshest barrier of all. How often do we see someone gripping a syringe and fail to see the person within? Do we recognize them as a child, a parent, a neighbor who slipped through society's cracks? Or do we confine them to their addiction, freeing ourselves from responsibility? Fentanyl's shadow may stretch wide, but it doesn't tell the full story. Beneath it lies a pressing reality without comprehensive solutions. Housing linked to treatment and mental health care. Infused with empathy, the cycle will persist. The question remains, do we possess the resolve to act? Can we replace shame with respect, short-term fixes with lasting support, neglect with genuine hope? Only then can we begin to pull those lost in its depths back toward the light. The roots of the crisis, why homelessness persists. Beneath the visible suffering of homelessness in America lies not a tale of personal shortcomings, but a network of systemic failures. Have we been led to believe that addiction or bad decisions are the true roots? In reality, it is economic erosion, policy, neglect, and ingrained inequities that quietly unravel security. At the heart of this emergency is the housing market itself. In 2024, rents will consume more than half of many households' earnings. How long can parents juggle groceries, medicine, and rent before one payment collapses everything? After decades of insufficient funding for affordable housing, the safety net is in tatters. Luxury skyscrapers soar above cities while affordable units disappear. Isn't it ironic that in one of the richest nations on earth, millions live one paycheck away from homelessness? Since the 1980s, federal investment in public housing has diminished, replaced by faith that private developers would step in. But what occurs when profit, not need, drives construction? The outcome is predictable. Working families forced to pick between survival and security, with eviction looming nearby. The end of emergency rental relief in 2023 only intensified this pressure, driving new waves of displacement. Can we label it anything other than a policy failure when lives unravel overnight? History also casts a deep shadow. Discriminatory practices in housing, schooling, and employment have trapped Native Americans, Latinos, and other marginalized groups in cycles of poverty. Should it shock us that these communities experience homelessness at disproportionate levels? Adding migration surges to the mix strains underfunded social systems to the brink, widening the gaps further. Then comes climate change and added cruelty. Floods, fires, and storms strike those with the fewest resources the hardest. When homes are destroyed, why do recovery dollars so often benefit the privileged, while the poorest are left behind? So why does this calamity continue in such an affluent nation? Political stalemates block meaningful progress, while local opposition to shelters or low-income housing masks exclusion as community values. Is this really about protection or about preserving comfort at compassion's expense? Each eviction is more than paperwork. It's a scar, a broken vow. Yet solutions exist: affordable housing, fair policy, climate-resilient planning. Will we embrace them or deepen the damage by remaining idle? The question is clear, yet pressing in a country that celebrates opportunity. Will we finally choose to leave no one behind? The human and social toll, a nation's reflection. Homeless in America, where despair carves wounds not just into the streets, but into the nation's very core. The suffering of those without shelter doesn't remain isolated. It spreads outward, unsettling communities and weighing on our collective conscience. Beyond collapsing systems and broken assurances lies the raw human cost, shame, fear, and alienation woven into daily existence. Imagine this: a woman sitting silently in a public library, her life packed into a frayed bag. She bows her head to avoid murmurs, to escape the stares that strip away her last fragments of dignity. Or a man huddled in a doorway, his teeth rattling in the icy night, his hunger louder than the traffic, but silenced by urban apathy. How many times have we passed by without noticing? How often have we whispered, "It's not my problem"? In 2024, parks and sidewalks overflowed with tents and improvised shelters, each a stark reminder that survival has replaced living. Communities fracture, with some demanding encampment sweeps and others pleading for mercy. And while courts uphold the right to sleep outside when shelters are unavailable, what solace does legality bring when you're freezing on concrete? Doesn't this reveal that laws alone can't provide humanity? The emotional damage cuts deepest for those forgotten. Young adults deserted by family or crushed by economic turmoil drift through streets haunted by lost possibilities. Single parents clutch their kids close, masking their despair, while small eyes sense the truth that their world is unraveling. Every account is a gash, an exposed wound of sorrow, solitude, and betrayal. In spaces once meant for gathering, walls of mistrust rise. Homes turn away, and the unhoused shoulder the unbearable weight of being unseen. This pain mirrors something bigger: the fractured conscience of America. Each unheard cry, each averted gaze reflects not just personal failure, but a national one. Shelters overflow, yet hostility lingers. Achievements are praised, while suffering is brushed aside. How can a country that champions progress and possibility accept this as ordinary? How can we keep turning away? But here lies the most vital question. Do we possess the bravery to face this reflection? Homelessness exposes greed, indifference, and broken covenants, but it can also illuminate a way forward. Through empathy, genuine housing, and policies that heal rather than hide, we can begin to repair these wounds. And perhaps rekindle the spirit of a nation that has averted its eyes for far too long. Efforts and obstacles, the struggle for solutions. The wounds of homelessness in America plead for relief, yet the journey towards solutions is a maze of optimism and setbacks. Governments, nonprofits, and communities unite, with determination channeling billions into the cause, but the sheer scale of the crisis often swallows their work. In 2024, federal agencies invested more than $3 billion into housing programs and preventative support, seeking to mend a worn safety net. Cities like Houston, through unified outreach, have reduced homelessness by 50% over 10 years, shining as a model of hope. Yet elsewhere, lofty goals collapse under unrelenting pressure. Consider California's Housing First strategy, prioritizing lasting housing over temporary beds. Since 2018, it has reduced chronic homelessness by 20% in some areas, restoring stability for many. But expanding this framework hits harsh realities, insufficient funding, and fierce neighborhood resistance. Affluent communities, masked by worries over property values, obstruct shelters and affordable projects. They're not in my backyard stance, chaining progress to stagnation. This opposition leaves countless individuals adrift, their aspirations delayed by walled-off indifference. Policy clashes deepen the mire. Some push for punitive tactics, clearing encampments or banning outdoor sleeping, sparking disputes that led to a 2024 Supreme Court decision upholding such bans. Opponents call this criminalizing poverty rather than addressing it. At the same time, the rollback of pandemic protections, including eviction freezes, drove a 15% jump in displacements in 2023, throwing families into turmoil. These temporary measures, though well-meaning, buckle beneath the crisis's enormity, acting as bandages on wounds that need reconstruction. Coordination breaks down as agencies work in silos. Housing addiction and mental health services, split by bureaucracy, force the vulnerable through an impossible maze. A 2023 report from Seattle found that only 1 in 10 people with mental health conditions receive consistent care lost in layers of paperwork. Climate disasters, fires, floods, storms add to the suffering, pushing thousands into makeshift shelters with no clear path forward. The 2023 Maui Inferno left survivors stranded, their struggle a stark warning about the need for resilient housing systems. Why do remedies falter? Homelessness is a knot of economic, social, and environmental forces resisting easy answers. Temporary beds bring relief, but ignore root causes. Still, amid this struggle, glimmers of progress, expanded housing, integrated services, compassionate policy hint at a future where resolve bridges the gap between need and justice, healing the nation's hidden wounds. A personal reflection, seeing the human behind the crisis. As someone who has long examined the intersection of policy and human suffering, I find myself deeply unsettled by the hidden wounds of homelessness in America. Every account a tired soul beneath an overpass, a family's existence bundled in a tattered bag beats with the pain numbers can't convey. These are not faceless silhouettes, but human lives. Their dreams crushed by a society that chooses to look away. What lingers with me is the glaring disparity between America's affluence and the despair of those left drifting along its edges. This crisis acts as a mirror laying bare our shared shortcomings. We live in a land of dazzling wealth, yet countless lives balance on a knife's edge one setback from ruin. An unexpected illness, a rent increase, or a devastating storm can unravel stability, exposing how fragile the line between security and hardship truly is. Far too often we push the homeless to the margins, their agony hidden by our instinct to judge. But their pain belongs to all of us, a collective wound born of neglect and broken structures. This reality demands accountability. Pointing fingers at individuals avoids the deeper problem of society that lets inequality thrive. Offering a bed for a night is kindness, not a solution. Meaningful change requires preventive policies housing medical care opportunity. My heart breaks for those unseen, their dignity eroded by icy streets and colder gazes. Yet within them burns a quiet resilience that inspires hope. By hearing their voices, we can stir a collective determination to act not through pity, but with intention. This crisis urges us to acknowledge the humanity we've long ignored, to truly see the people behind the suffering. It calls us to shape a future where no one is forsaken, where empathy and justice repair fractured lives. Let us refuse to look away and instead step forward, building a nation that cherishes every life, healing the wounds we have too long left unattended. Conclusion: a call to redefine compassion. Homelessness in America exposes the fractured core of a nation, its hidden wounds seeping through lives pushed into darkness. Every torn tent, every trembling figure mirrors our inability to bridge affluence and deprivation. This crisis, stitched from broken dreams and systemic neglect, cuts through every community, demanding more than momentary sympathy. It calls for determination, a steadfast will to recognize the humanity in those we've long ignored. The suffering of the unhoused is a collective weight, a blemish on a country capable of far more. Facing this reality requires acknowledging the diversity of those affected, unraveling the forces that ensnare them, and mourning their cost. Yet within this grief lies direction. Solutions, affordable housing, comprehensive care. Just policies urge us to act with intent, not mere charity. Envision a nation where no one sleeps on cold pavement, where dignity is a guarantee, not a luxury. This is our mandate: to build a society that heals its wounds and refuses to let despair define its people. Let us rise not with hollow promises, but through deeds that restore lives, weaving empathy into our national fabric. Only then can we ensure that no American must call the streets home, their injuries finally acknowledged and healed.